Mr. Moore, I just want to start off by saying it's such an honor to interview you. My first question was, how has the amount of trash you've observed in the gyres, such as the Great Pacific Garbage Patch, increased over time from when you initially found it in 1997?
Sailing his research catamaran, Alameda, Moore and a small crew drag a trawling device through the garbage patch to study the content of ocean water. And what they find, he describes as a plastic soup, more plastic in some waters than plankton, the basic food organism of the ocean.
It has a few insects in it, like halibades. It has some zooplankton, but overwhelmingly what we're seeing here are plastic particles. The ocean has become a plastic soup. This is the soup.
The problem with plastic in particular is that it doesn't quite float and doesn't sink either. Sunlight and salt water slowly break it down until bags become shreds and hard objects break down to multicolored chips.
This is the new beach sand that we're seeing throughout the Pacific Islands. It's a sand made of plastic.
Alameda, California, our island in the Pacific Bay. And it is suffering.
Oh my God, there's a dead bird. I know. Let's see. Dude, they look sad.
There's just so much plastic that impacts the bay. I've lived in Alameda since first grade, and I love my home because it's right next to the water. I remember my elementary school field trip would be to the estuary to birdwatch. I decided to join Community Action for a Sustainable Alameda and OKAPI Reusable for an internship along with Christina, Olivia, and Cassidy, because we really just want to protect our home and the life on it. Any litter that ends up on our streets, beach, or coastline will feed directly into the bay. I mean, it's imperative that we all switch from disposable cups to reusable. People really need to understand how the cup's life cycle hurts our water and home from the very start to finish.
Traditionally, people come in and order their drink to go, or they order to dine within the establishment. The customer taking the cup to go is most likely leaving with a single-use disposable cup unless they bring their own. 3 in 4 coffee drinkers drink coffee every day. Research shows that over 69% of people have reusable coffee cups. However, only 1 in 6 people remember to bring their own mug every time they buy a hot drink. In the UK, it's estimated that less than 5% of all hot drinks are sold to people bringing a reusable cup.
For those who dine in, they will be lucky if the cafe serves their drink in a reusable cup. However, there are times when a cafe will give customers a single-use disposable cup to dine in that becomes another statistic in America's ongoing generated waste. Out of 2,000 coffee-drinking Americans, the average coffee drinker enjoys 2 cups per day and needs 21 minutes to finish each cup. In the United States alone, 16 billion disposable coffee cups are thrown away annually.
In the world of convenience, most consumers don't think about everything that goes into the production of the cup.
Why would they? The life cycle of the cup is hidden from their sight. Let's look at the paper cup's life cycle first. The production of a paper coffee cup has 2 distinct stages. 1, the extraction of raw materials, and 2, material processing and manufacturing. Harvesting trees. Logging and lumber extraction practices for raw materials to be used for single-use purposes can be unsustainable and lead to habitat loss that contributes to biodiversity loss. Flooding and droughts give rise to slope instability and soil erosion. Deforestation expedites carbon released into the atmosphere. The harvested trees are transported by trucks to a debarking facility. The debarked trees are transported to a second facility to transform into tree chips. The tree chips are converted into pulp using toxic chemicals. The pulp is laid out into thin sheets of paper. paper is shaped into a cup. Typically, a thin plastic layer is then heated and applied to the interior of the cup. The most common type of plastic used is polyethylene. The plastic is used to line the inside of the coffee cup to maintain its shape and allow it to be water and heat resistant.
Not to mention, paper cups lined with polyethylene make them difficult to recycle and compost. Not every compost facility or recycling center wants paper cups because of the plastic layer. Lately, plastic-layered paper cups have been rejected from compost and recycling and are being sent to landfills. We're not saying that society doesn't need wood or paper, but we are asking if society really needs that paper cup to be used one time and then thrown away 21 minutes later. Now, let's look at the plastic cup life cycle.
Different types of plastic can be used for cups, but the most common type is polyethylene terephthalate, also known as PET. Then there's another commonly used plastic called polypropylene, also known as PP. Here is the plastic production process. Plastic comes from naphtha, or petroleum oil. These oils go through a process that uses chemicals to create a chemical reaction called polymerization. The polymer is fed into an extruder, which is melted and put into a pipe. The tube is cut into small pellets. This product is called resin. The pellet resin are shipped to factories to be made into objects. The two most common processes for plastic cups are injection molding and thermoforming. Injection molding. Pellets are put into an injection mold of a cup. Thermoforming. Sheets of plastic are heated, stretched over molds, and refined into plastic cups. These processes create the plastic cup to be transported to a cafe or store near you.
Manufacturing plastic for both the paper cup lining and the plastic cup is toxic. The plastic industry contributes 14% of the U.S. toxic chemical total into the air. The Oakland Recycling Association analyzed EPA data. Manufacturing PET resin generates more toxic emissions than manufacturing glass.
Producing a 16-ounce PET bottle generates more than 100 times the toxic emissions to air and water than making the same size bottle out of glass. Extraction and manufacturing of cups can harm the environment in many ways, but it is also harmful to the employees, and the risk of developing respiratory diseases increases when producing these products. Styrene is a chemical used to make plastic packaging, disposable cups, and other products. Some studies showed that 75% of workers exposed to styrene inhalation had developed asthma. 10% of the workers exposed to chemical isocyanates used in manufacturing plastics also developed asthma.
In the paper manufacturing industry, workers have an increased risk of developing cancer when exposed to dust from pulp, paper, and other airborne particles related to paper production. The manufacturing industry for wood and plastic also has a record of worker injuries.
But what happens to the cup 21 minutes after the coffee is finished? Let's look at the amount of disposable cups consumed regularly, focusing on coffee and boba as our case study. 500 billion disposable coffee cups are used globally each year. In the United States alone, 16 billion disposable coffee cups are thrown away annually. Coffee is the second most consumed beverage in the US behind water. 63% of Americans consume it daily. US citizens consume a total of 400 million cups of coffee daily. Each year, the average American uses 150 disposable coffee cups. Approximately 600 billion paper and plastic cups are used worldwide each year. The polyethylene layer of coffee cups makes it difficult to separate the plastic lining from the paper layer, so it becomes a less desirable product to recycle. Only 3 out of 450 US paper recycling mills can process plastic-coated cups.
Boba is a growing food service industry that uses single-use plastic cups and is very popular among teens and people in their 20s. In 2023, it has been recorded that there are 3,601 boba tea businesses in the US. The average boba tea shop serves between 150 to 500 boba customers per day.
Boba is a growing industry and was valued at $505 million in 2021 and is projected to reach $833 million by 2030. The global tea market is expected to reach $3 billion by 2027. When stuff like paper and plastic cups get thrown away, they either end up in the incinerator or landfill. Incineration of paper and plastic cups contributes to dioxins released into the air. Paper cups in landfills release methane, which significantly contributes to greenhouse gas emissions and climate change.
When the cups aren't thrown away into the landfill or incinerator, they enter our water in many different ways, from litter and overflowing trash cans to storm drains, wind, and improper waste disposal.
What's that one? It was paper or plastic?
So this is an elective class of 7th and 8th graders, and the class is called Environmental Stewardship. We're at Wood Middle School, which is just a block from the bay in Alameda, and right down the shore is the Elsie Romer Bird Sanctuary. So we're out here today fulfilling our motto, which is to think globally and act locally, and we're cleaning the beach, mostly of plastic debris and things from the restaurants that are also near the bird sanctuary. But yeah, that's what we're doing today. Breaking down. Makes it even more important to get it out of the water.
Okay, so the students found a dead bird among a whole bunch of plastic. This is, an unfortunate realization of what's happening to our environment and why we are doing this documentary.
Instead of disappearing in the water, the plastic degrades into microplastics, which then makes its way into our very own food.
The albatross, they skim over the ocean, they see thousands of miles of ocean, and whatever is bobbing around, they'll pick it up. And they're feeding so much plastic to their chicks that it's killing the chicks. And other species have been monitored, and there's a new diagnosis now for birds that eat plastic. It's called plasticosis. And the evidence is that because of that plastic diet, seabirds are now smaller and they have more disease. They're smaller and sicker because of these broken down bits of plastic. So animals are dying and becoming smaller and sicker and dying because of our plastic trash. So plankton are consuming plastic, and the great whales are consuming plastic. So it really doesn't matter the size of the creature. Plastic will mimic that food. It just that's the whole definition of plastic, is it's infinitely mimicking, infinitely moldable, can be any color, any size, any shape. And as it breaks down, it assumes those in a random, haphazard way. So you've got this really problematic material that is not slowing down in its use because the world is demanding more plastic. Why? Because it's convenient.
A study in the San Francisco Bay found greater levels of microplastics in the bay than other waters in North America.
6 times more plastic than plankton on the surface. And that finding that there was more trash than life, that's what really exploded this issue and started what we call the plastic conversation. I call it pulling back the plastic curtain of ignorance on the material that defines our age. We are living in the age of plastic.
90% of all seabirds are found to have plastic pieces in their stomachs. Plastic is found in 100% of turtles, 59% of whales, and 36% of seals. And hundreds more of marine species in our home ingest plastic debris, leading to starvation, infections, and injuries. Plastic takes 500 years to fully disappear. But there are actions we can take to reduce the impact we have as consumers and save our beautiful waters. It's simple. Bring your own, dine in, and reuse refill. This can be achieved through Alameda's new local solution, OKAPI Reusables. OKAPI Reusables is a company making it easier to borrow reusable takeout cups from your favorite cafes across Alameda. OKAPI is a circular borrowing system. They are trying to shift the culture away from using things once and then throwing them away.
Only 20% of US citizens surveyed almost always use their own cups when buying coffee to go. OKAPI Reusables is a solution for the day when people forget to bring their own cups. The Borrow Cup programs, like OKAPI, are sustainable backup solutions.
In 2023, the EPA issued a draft national strategy to prevent plastic pollution. At the top of the EPA's list of recommendations was to reduce the production and consumption of single-use plastics.